Welcome to the Real Virtual Show. I am your host, Malia Probst, and we are joined today by Kym Porter from Australia. He is at VR Connect. Kym, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
It is an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you. Thank you for coming all the way from Australia.
Look, it's the quickest flight I've ever been on, to America. So, yeah, if every flight was like this, we're in a good world. We're in a good world.
You figure out this. I'm not understanding. I'm still not understanding why someone hasn't solved this thing with teleportation already. Why are we still waiting on that?
I think they wanted to work on VR first. I think they're just trying to nail that. Once they've got that, I think teleportation is pretty much the next step. So
You're right. Absolutely. Nice segue. So let's start super broad. What is virtual reality, Kym, and why should we care about it?
It's actually a question I think that's harder to answer now than what it used to be. I think virtual reality, if you were to ask that question back in the 90s when it sort of first made an appearance, people thought of it as an escape from normal reality. For some reason, we didn't like normal reality. We wanted to escape into a virtual world. And I think a lot of it was based on, things like the Lawnmower Man and those movies that came out that sort of started spawning it. But I think now, if you to ask someone, especially who's now in the industry of virtual reality, what is virtual reality? They'll say it's a new way of life. It's a new way of doing work. It's a new way of having fun, a new way of playing games. It is the ultimate way to communicate. So, and that's pretty much how I would, describe what virtual reality is now.
So we should care about it because it will affect every single business, every single industry. It will affect our lives in amazing ways. So that's why we should care about it. So thank you for coming on. We're gonna focus on the broad business applications of virtual reality and augmented reality. And we're going to dig specifically into retail and e-commerce. But first, Kym, what are some of the other spaces with AR and VR that you're excited about? What are some industries that you're looking forward to being revolutionized?
Look, I think me personally, I can't wait to see what the architectural industry does when they really get their hands on it. They're dabbling in it at the moment. There's a lot of players trying to get involved, but I think give it a couple of years and we'll see some amazing things come out of the architectural industry. Gaming, no one's really interested in gaming. I'm sure that won't take off. But yeah, of course, gaming. Everyone's excited about gaming. Everyone's excited about aiming for the stars, flying in their favorite spacecraft. Being part of the Star Wars films in the future. Everyone is looking forward to the gaming side of things.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Kym. What's your background, and how did your background kind of bleed into virtual reality? How did you get to where you are today? What was your route, and what was your magic moment for you that virtual reality just clicked?
Well, look, I'd have to say I've had three magic moments, or three wow moments, as I like to call them, with virtual reality in particular. But to get there, my history is varied. As you know, I started back builders laboring, working on building sites, which was where the work ethic was developed. And then from there, I got into sales. I was a multi-million-dollar sales executive. I've managed sales teams. I've managed architects. I've managed designers. And now I'm in the merchandising space, working for a company where I look after Australia and New Zealand. And it's absolutely mind-blowing what we're doing in that space. But when you add virtual reality to it, and this is where my wow moment came in, working with a company, and I've had permission to mention them, Iris VR, used a piece of their software and threw one of our designs into their software, and lo and behold, I was in it, I could walk around it, I could see it as a customer would see it. So that was definitely the most epic moment I've had so far.
When was that?
That would have been a good, it feels like it must be almost a year and a half, 2 years ago almost. It was actually quite some time ago. Back in the days with, this puppy right here, the original DK1, which, when it came out, I think everyone put it on. We got into Tuscany, and everyone's minds were blown. We went, right, okay, this is the future. Please bring on the next one. And then there we had it. DK2 came out, and happy days. We were all of a sudden moving within the space, and that was when I got that first instant with Iris VR that just blew me away.
So you've been aware of virtual reality since the 90s, correct?
Yeah.
What can you touch upon the roots of virtual reality just a bit? I mean, we're starting to see so much in mainstream media, and we're seeing so much in the news, but it's been going on for quite some time. Can you kind of flesh that out a little bit better for us, and perhaps what led to that first wave of virtual reality in the 90s?
Look, the first wave of virtual reality in the 90s, I think, was different dependent on what country you were in. In Australia, we didn't have a lot here. I think the most dominant force that tried to launch something with virtual reality was we had a I don't know if you guys had it over there. I'm sure you would have. It was called Sega World. It opened in Sydney back in like 97, I think it was. And they were sort of demonstrating all sorts of different, what was considered very new tech at the time, all focused on gaming, of course. I remember my first time I tried it, I was sitting with a group of people. We all got logged into the same platform. It was the most chunky thing you've ever seen, sitting on your head, very heavy. You'd move and then the screen would move about 3 seconds later. It was not a great experience, hence why not mind-blowing. No one really got excited about it. It didn't really take off from there. Our graphic capacity wasn't there yet. Our computer capacity wasn't there yet. We certainly didn't have the internet capacity, not in Australia. So yeah, it was a very slow takeoff. It pretty much died in Australia. You wouldn't see anything after that. It wasn't until you started seeing the news around Palmer Luckey and his Kickstarter campaign to use mobile phone technology to actually start working with this again. And all of a sudden, all the enthusiasts, those people that remembered those first times in the 90s, started to just jump on board. And you see where it is now. All of a sudden, we've got Gear VR in the mainstream. It's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
You've touched on a couple of big signposts. Mm-hmm. And why do you think that virtual reality will succeed in our current climate? So how is it different now? How is this quote unquote second wave positioned differently? In the 90s, there were a lot of expectations that this technology was going to take off, that this was going to be a mainstream adoption, that this was going to do what we see now, which is change the way we see the world and collaborate in the world, the way we do stuff, everything. And so people had a lot of expectations in the 90s. Why did it not take off then compared to where we are right now?
Look, I think we've established a couple of key milestones with virtual reality now. Thank you to people like Palmer Luckey and the huge team at Oculus, HTC, all those guys. That they're starting to develop that sense of presence, making you feel more comfortable wearing the gears. It's a much more pleasant experience. And back when they first launched it, it wasn't pleasant. It was a novelty, and they've taken it out of that novelty phase. They've made it functional. You can use it. You can work with it. You can play games with it. You can play games for an extended length of time with it. And these are the things that they're now getting, and they're getting right. And that's why, okay, cool, let's launch it to the masses, because it can only get better from there. The more people have it now, the more support it's going to get. and the bigger the industry is going to become.
Have you ever experienced motion sickness or nausea or any of those ill effects from some early VR and perhaps lower quality virtual reality?
I got a little bit of motion sickness with the DK1. It's definitely a personal thing. The more people I've seen use this and I've worked with using it, you see some people who are affected greatly by it. They can't have it on for longer than a very short amount of time, especially with the Gear VR. I think once the Gear VR has managed to use that front camera to track where your head position is in space, I think that's going to just solve a whole bunch of problems. It was when they launched DK2 with the actual motion tracking so that it knew where your head was, you could lean into something and see it. That took away a lot of that sick feeling, that car sickness, motion sickness that people started to feel. So yeah, I think I've definitely experienced it. People will still experience it. There's a couple of little hurdles they've got to make for the mobile platform to make it more comfortable. But even still, that what they have released so far is, leaps and bounds ahead of the original DK1 when that came out.
I must have a really strong stomach because I've never had any feeling of nausea in any virtual experience. But I think maybe I haven't tried the DK1. I think I've just been on the DK2.
Right.
So let's focus on business. Could you address some of the very broad ways in which virtual reality and augmented reality is going to help businesses?
I think when we're thinking business, there's two ways to think of virtual reality and augmented reality in business. You've basically got your customer experience focused side, but then you've also got your business efficiency side. So if you, and if you're a VR company and you're starting up, I think you really need to think about that. What is it that you want to provide to a business? Is it something that's going to help the business internally? Or is it something that is really an external entertainment, customer engagement focused opportunity? So, we're seeing a lot coming out at the moment. You've got a lot of companies, for example, Volvo, they're using augmented reality and working with that to try and generate a better customer experience. You've got BMW who have they've put in their 7 Series BMW into virtual reality so that you can change the internal textures and finishes and things like that, and feel what it's like to actually sit in the car. So a lot of it is focused on customer engagement at the moment. I would love to see more on the other side of it, the business efficiency side of things, because there's a lot of opportunity there. The example is really what I'm using it for currently. I use it basically to see what my designers and architects are creating so that I can know what it feels like to be in a space that's been created, to know whether it's going to work for our demographic of customers, to know if logos have been put in the right positions, have the heights right, have we got lighting in the right spaces, what does a customer see when they walk through the front door, lots of things like that.
Yeah, the architecture industry and the real estate industry and any industry that has anything to do with humans building things in any capacity, there's just so much potential there. And this technology really, really closes that feedback loop between engineers and design. So think of how quickly you can churn out rapid iterations, make really quick virtual prototypes. This saves so much money.
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you, I literally cannot tell you how much money the business I work for
You'd have to kill me, right?
Sorry?
He said if you told me, you'd have to kill me, right?
I'd have to kill everyone, and I just can't. I'm not like that. I'm not that kind of person.
You want
the company I work for now, the amount of money I've saved is I really, I don't know how I would work that out, because what we've done is save so much time after a project is completed, because we already found out what the problems were before it was built, and that's huge. Like, it's massive, and that's something that when businesses realize you can do that and start saving money, provide efficiency, that's when you're going to see a huge jump onto virtual reality.
So Jason Bates has a great question here.
Mm-hmm.
Is there virtual reality live streaming, or is it coming soon for, say, sporting events? Jason, I love where your head's at, first of all. Something that's actually a topic that we're going to delve into on this. I can tell you that the NBA recently made history with the first live broadcast of a sporting event in virtual reality, and it was the season opener between the Golden State Warriors and the Pelicans. And it was also where the Golden State Warriors accepted their championship rings from last year. So it was kind of a fun draw. And so that was facilitated by Next VR, which is a company that's based here in Los Angeles. So it was a limited number of people that were really able to participate, because you had to have the Samsung gear, I believe. It was they only announced it that day, so they kept the potential users quite small to be able to probably wrangle all of the unknowns that happen in all live events, but especially when you throw that kind of technology at it. But that was the first mainstream live sporting broadcast that came recently. But I know that Kym is an avid CrossFitter, and I think that he would probably be looking forward to some virtual reality sporting events as well.
Absolutely. Look, I love CrossFit. CrossFit's awesome. I can't say enough good stuff about it. But technique is everything. That's all I'm going to say. I won't go into it. But as far as sporting events are concerned, the market for it, the potential for it is absolutely amazing. Thank you very much for the VR CrossFit. In Australia, we are huge on rugby league, rugby union, and AFL, Australian Football, the Australian Football League. Or Aussie Rules, as it's better known. If you're thinking of getting into it, America, look at the Adelaide Crows. They're standouts. They'll always be the best team. I love them dearly. But the ability to be able to view your favorite team in virtual reality is going to be huge. When you see the supporters of certain sports, look at soccer, for example, what they call the world game, soccer, and the way supporters feel about soccer, the ability to actually put them there and actually be there at their favorite games, at the most important games. I know I've seen a soccer match where they've done it. It was purely testing, I believe, and I was on the sideline of the soccer field, and you can actually see the ref running up the sideline, and I actually moved back because I actually felt like, oh crap, I'm going to get run into, even though I actually had a headset on and it was all virtual. It was really incredible. You can be put into the game. You can be right up close to the superstars that you've longed to be close to for so long. There's so much potential for it. And yes, Jason, VR live streaming it's already happening. They've already basically got camera setups that can do it. I think the biggest thing is, dependent on where you are in the world, is how good is your internet capability. So you need to have, obviously, the bandwidth to cater for 360 degrees of graphical quality. So,
yeah, I'm excited about the implications for live streaming and virtual reality and live events and sporting events. Absolutely, as well. And Jason had another question here that, venue owners could double book seats. And that brings to mind the possibility that as a venue owner, you have a limited number of half court seats, of 50-yard line seats, press box seats. You have a very limited number of those. So would you rather sell a limited number for 10 grand each, or would you rather pop a 360 camera right there, wherever that amazing point of view is, wherever that VIP perspective is, pop a 360 viewer there, and then sell 100,000 of those seats, those virtual seats, for $10?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And there's more and more cameras coming out now that are capable of providing a really good experience. Samsung have just released a little bit more information on the camera they're working with, where it's 360 degrees, but it's also I think it's 16 lenses running around this camera that allow you to get a full 3-dimensional view. So you get the depth of field as well, which is all part of that immersive feeling.
Yeah, the numbers on attendance of live events, sporting events in general, have been sagging. And as a venue owner from that side of things, it looks really appealing to see how you can virtually pack those stands, and then even integrating marketing into it as well. So have a crowd perspective up in the seats. And so then real estate, those seats around that 360 camera, go ahead and sell that to brands and advertisers so that all the pretty people are sitting right around that 360 camera wearing whatever clothes, consuming whatever products, using whatever, the possibilities are endless. And so
you could add CGI as well. You could put in a fake blimp if you wanted, flying around a stadium. You could do, that's the great thing about virtual reality. If you can dream it, you can make it happen.
For every episode, we get some variation of this question, and this is an important question, because when we view virtual reality from a pop cultural perspective, and if we're judging what virtual reality is or could be by, let's face it, the majority of dystopian visions that have come to life throughout numerous movies, Lawnmower Man type stuff. But the question, what are the psychological changes that could come along with virtual reality? And then how do we prevent people from losing that sense or that grasp onto the real world?
Look, I think there's going to be people who get lost in it. I think it's inevitable. You look at World of Warcraft as an example, and that's not virtual reality. That's just people getting drawn in. They lose a sense of what's actually going on behind them. The house is burning down, but no, they have to stay in the game. They've got a team that they're working with. Those things will happen. But I think if you think about it on the flip side, let's think about the people that are in hospital right now. They can't go anywhere. They can't do anything. If we can provide them with something that allows them to escape that hospital space, they're going to take it. It's the psychological impact on that is nothing but positive. And then when you also think of things like aged care facilities, which is a big thing in Australia at the moment. I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but I know that we definitely have an aging population here in Australia. And the amount of money we're putting into aged care facilities is incredible. But the big thing is once you're there, you're there. So the ability to be able to communicate with grandchildren, the rest of the family, be part of Christmas when you can't make it there physically. There are so many things there that psychological impacts are going to be fantastic. It's going to create a fantastic experience for so many people that wouldn't ordinarily be able to share in any other way.
Yeah, I definitely think we'll see some virtual reality themed rehab centers pop up. So perhaps a nice peripheral industry that will be as well.
Yeah.
Would you mind going back to to the business. And going
Yes.
back specifically to some of the experiences that you've been building, could you really bring to life and really spell out and really illustrate what one of those specific applications are that you've been working on? Like, really walk us through it.
So a good example is actually a case from this year. What I had was we had a big event planned, and for that event we had a space that was given to us, provided to us, and we have a number of different categories within what we do. So I had one design firm creating a certain part of that, and then I had another design firm creating for another set of categories. But this all had to come together in the one space. So what I did was got them to send me a particular type of file of what they had created. I then also drew up the actual event space itself, the entire building, popped that in, and I was able to actually walk the space. And the most important word here is feel. I was able to feel what it was like to be a customer in that space, to be a consumer in that space. You can look at 3D renders all day long, but you'll never know what it actually feels like to actually be in that space until it's been built. So with the virtual reality technology, and I'm going to give a shout out to Iris VR, IRIS VR, that team are pioneers in making this easy. Basically, you can take a file, chuck it into their program, and all of a sudden you're there. You're in the world. You can walk around it. You can really get a sense of what it feels like to be in the space. So the practical applications were that I could walk the halls of this event and see our stand from the perspective of a customer from every angle. I knew exactly where to put logos. I knew exactly how to merchandise the stand. I knew exactly if we had enough lighting. I knew if it was high enough. Everything I was able to establish straight away. And I was also able to find any mistakes that had been made by the designers and architects in what they'd chosen for finishes, whether or not they had the wrong dimension for a particular type of product. It all shows up. There's nothing that hides. So it's a brilliant way to work. So that, for me, was probably the best example of how efficient and how rewarding it can be.
It's a fantastic example. And again, going back to what we mentioned a bit ago in the amount of money that this can save for businesses by utilizing it for business efficiency and productivity. So how do we deal with the companies that are resistant to change? And this is not a unique problem. This is not a problem unique to virtual reality. This is a human condition in that we all, in some way, are kind of resistant to change. So how do we get this technology? How do we get virtual reality? How do we get augmented reality? How do we get this technology into the hands of those type of businesses?
Mm-hmm. I think this is where I put my salesman's cap on and start to think about how would you sell it to a business. And really, you go back to those basics of feature, advantage, benefit. And you can't just go to a business with a new product and go feature, 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 advantage, 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 advantage. You need to know what the benefit is to the company first. You need to find out what are the issues they're facing, what are the challenges they're facing. You need to learn about their company before you go and approach them. If you just turn up with a virtual reality headset and a dinosaur experience, you're not going to get very far. You're going to wow a few people, but everyone's going to go, no, it's still a gimmick, it's still a toy. You need to think about what is that company doing and what is it that they could be doing better. And if you can think of something that's actually going to assist them, help them do it better, my advice would be don't wait for them to give you direction to produce something. It's not that costly to produce something for virtual reality these days. And if you know what you're doing with Unreal Engine, Unity, whatever, Cryo Engine, if you know how to use those products, it doesn't take that long to produce something pretty cool. And if you can already produce something and then approach the company with it, and you've already got the benefit and the solution to their problems, they're going to take a lot more interest in it. They're going to pay attention to you, and they're going to go, right, how much money do you want?
It sounds so easy when you put it like that. It sounds so simple.
Well, I'll be completely honest. That's exactly what I did. So
You showed. You said, "Here's the solution, and this is what it is."
Yeah, absolutely. I've always had that problem. When we're building big projects, there's nothing worse than when you finish a project and go, God, I wish we hadn't done this way, or geez, I wish I'd known that that this space was so small. So as soon as I saw there was a possibility that we could solve that problem, I jumped on it in seconds. One day I'm going to meet Palmer Luckey, and I'm going to give him the biggest hug you've ever seen.
I think he'd hug you back too.
It's always going to be inappropriate.
From what everyone has said about the guy, he has remained incredibly humble and is a good guy. So that's the word on the streets. That's what I've been hearing. But kind of turning to e-commerce, turning to shopping experiences, turning to retail. Would you mind touching upon the evolution of brick and mortar stores to online shopping to e-commerce to mobile in-app purchases? How did we get here, and what is the next step? Is it called v-commerce?
Is it called v-commerce? Possibly. You might have just started something. You heard it here first, everyone.
I wish I could take credit for that.
Look, no one needs to tell anyone. I think if you look at the evolution of how customers purchase products or a service or whatever it is, bricks and mortar has a place. It's always had a place. I think it will still always have a place. There are certain items that you're not going to know what they're actually like until you see them in the flesh. I don't think we've developed things like haptic technology quite yet. So far we've talked about the senses of the eyes and the ears, and that's where virtual reality is right now. We've still got the nose to sort out. We've still got the tongue and the taste buds to sort out. We need to develop all those other senses virtually before we can go down the path of taking away any kind of bricks and mortar. But if we look at the evolution of it, yes, it's going to be hard to find anyone that doesn't carry around a mobile phone or mobile device of some sort these days. In Australia, the impact of mobile technology has been, without a doubt, huge. We're actually, I think, the second largest of mobile apps in the world, where we're addicted to it effectively. But the way Australians tend to do their shopping these days is they will actually do all of their research online first, and then they will go in with that education to the bricks and mortar facility to actually purchase their product. And because we now all carry around these mobile devices, and because we do all this research, we're all about me, right? So we're very needy. We're very needy now. And mobile phones, we have to thank for that. We like to go in and know more about products than what the salespeople do. We like to know as much as we can before we make a purchase these days. So in saying that, online purchasing is growing at an exponential rate. Now, the ones that are making it work are things like your groceries, for example. So if you were some random company just opening up a grocery online store, you're not going to have a lot of luck. You need to have that bricks and mortar background and history so that you've got that trust from the customer first. And then what's happened in Australia is they have now launched their online platforms. People trust that, and they're going straight there and they're giving it a try. And when they do give it a try, the companies that are doing it right, they're providing the perfect service, they're supplying an alternative or a better alternative to anything they don't have in stock. They're doing all the right things. It's making online a little bit more easy to accept. So it's growing very rapidly. Whether we'll see that happen in the big box industry is going to be interesting. There are certain companies that are doing really, really well with it. And I think that's testament to having an amazing website. Now, the evolution to virtual reality, absolutely, there's a huge amount of potential for v-commerce, as it's been coined.
I really wish I could take credit for that. I like it. V-commerce.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for it. I think again, you're going to see supermarkets take advantage of that. You're going to see, I think in Korea actually, they actually did a test pilot of one of their supermarkets where they used a train platform and put these walls of groceries and they're basically as high resolution graphic as they could get of basically grocery shelves and all these QR codes, so that people waiting at the train to go home, they don't want to go do their shopping. They can just walk up to the wall, take a photo of these QR codes, adds to their shopping list, and bang, they've done their shopping. So now if we can put that into a virtual reality space, we don't have to be standing there in a train station. We can be at home, somewhere comfortable, wandering the rows. And I think when you think of the potential of that, there's a lot that can be done from all of these companies that supply these food stores or whatever it is they do. Because if you're able to walk down the aisle virtually, look at a product, and you want to know more about it, there's then potential to connect with that company directly. So you could potentially connect with that brand directly and actually speak to someone from that brand directly and learn more about a particular product if you don't know about it. Now, you can't do that in a supermarket. You have to pick it up. You've got to read a label and try and trust what's on the label. But, we all love to be sold something. So if we can speak to someone, if we can talk to someone, chat to someone, it's going to be amazing. And that's the sort of thing I think we'll see in v-commerce, where it will make that buying proposition much better.
So what will these virtual shopping experiences look like? Because if we can incorporate the social element and the social possibilities of sharing experiences together in virtual reality, if we bring that to retail, if we bring that to e-commerce, if we bring that to v-commerce, and we create virtual spaces in which we actually virtually meet up with our friends and family who are not geographically right next to us, and perhaps, this is what this looks like, this is what, and kind of get the socializing in and explore these virtual malls. There have been some interesting articles that have come out theorizing how these virtual gathering places, how they're going to look in the future. And a fun title. It was basically, it's like what shopping looks like now. It looks like malls on acid.
Yeah. Especially at Christmas time.
Yes, exactly. So talk about body scans and virtual dressing rooms. Am I going to ever have to brave the awful lighting that always goes along when you are shopping for bathing suits?
Actually, it's funny, in the world of fashion, there's some pretty cool stuff that I've seen, and I'm sure a few other people might have seen it as well. But what you are potentially going to have in the future is, in your own house, you could potentially have a shopping room. Now, what that means is you actually will have this room where you can walk into this room and essentially pick the shop that it is you want to visit, and all of the walls in the room will effectively become items from that shop. You could then touch the wall, touch the item that it is you're interested in, and it will immediately show you a bunch of accessories that could potentially go with that item. It will also show you what sizes are available in that item. Now, of course, you'll be able to load your own details into the programming of this particular room, and you'll be able to basically only be shown products that are suited to what suits you, what fits you, and the like. And you can order directly from there. So that's a pretty cool thing I was shown recently. Another cool thing that's coming is the the ability to be in a dressing room and actually see a live screen of basically what it is you're trying on. If you don't have the right size, you could tap, I want a different size, and that could then go out to someone who's on the floor. They could race, grab it for you. There's nothing worse than stepping out of a change room half dressed going, it doesn't fit. Can you please get, a different, there's lots of cool stuff coming. So
it's going to lower the humiliation factor.
Absolutely. Because it's not just bathing suits for ladies. It's men that have trouble finding the right bathing suit also.
Absolutely. Mirrors are the problem.
Yeah, I can never find the right shade of mankini. It's
I think neon lime green, perhaps I'm seeing.
Maybe.
Lime green. I think that's where that's your go-to. So we kind of touched upon this a few moments ago. But how would the fact that we don't have all of our senses involved all the time with virtual reality, meaning when we're doing these shopping experiences, when we're participating in v-commerce, when we can't feel the fabric, when we can't actually try the item on and see how it fits. Of course, these are roadblocks to online shopping and e-commerce right now. But do you see any solutions, any eventual solutions for these potential roadblocks?
I think it's going to come down to actually the ability to actually put in your details into a system at the start to begin with anyway. Yes, I think, the technology is going to become available where we're able to scan ourselves for sure. But currently, I'll take the example of shirts, for example. So the shirts that I have, I don't go shopping for them in stores. Me personally, I don't like shopping. Crowds get annoying. It's a real pain. And then trying to find the shirt that fits.
Shopping so much, Kym.
Yep.
I can't wait until I never have to go into a store ever again, try on clothes ever again. I want to be able to do a body scan. I want everything to be virtually fitted for me, to tailor directly for me, specifically to my individual custom measurements. And then I want it delivered by drone.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, I want it delivered by drone. With some flashing lights and some sirens as well. I want everyone else to know that I'm getting it delivered by drone. Yeah. But, what I was getting at was my shirts, for example. I order them all online, but I order them all from a place that I've put in all my details, all measurements. So arms, shoulders, my increasing girth of gut, all of those sorts of all that sort of information I put into this particular website, and then everything's tailor-made, and it's half the cost as well. So it's there's so much opportunity in that space. So I think to begin with, it'll be a lot of manual inputting of your details, which isn't always fun. Sometimes you don't want to know exactly how much. As a guy, I don't want to know how much my beer gut has actually increased.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. So, there's a bit of manual labor to begin with, but I think, yes, body scanning, I think it's an absolute definite. We will be able to do that. And I would say it won't take long. It won't take long at all. There's a need.
So dialing back a bit. So with the rise of the internet, with the rise of the web, and then the rise of mobile, came a host of technological challenges in terms of hardware, support software, distribution channels, content ecosystems, in-app purchases, one-click shopping, so many things we have learned along the way of the evolution from web to mobile. So how can we look back into recent history and learn from that growth process to apply that to virtual reality and the emerging ecosystem around this amazing technology?
I think this is one of those. This is one of those industries where I think when when the World Wide Web came out and you had a lot of companies just saying, "Nah, I can't really see this taking off. I don't think I need a website." And then you had all these companies that thought, yeah, maybe they'll create a website. And then all of a sudden, the mobile technology grew. There was more traffic going to these things. And it's like, if you don't have a website, oh, okay, maybe we made a mistake. So yeah, having a website was obviously important. And then all of a sudden it became, well, if people are visiting these websites, why don't we allow them to buy from the website? And there's been companies in Australia that have gone, nah, people aren't going to buy online. No one's going to want to do that. They like coming into stores because, of our friendly faces, and they've got how many people out there are actually introverts and not extroverts. And yeah, look, online took off. So there are companies in Australia that are trying to catch up at the moment in those spaces. Now, when we think of virtual reality, it's a similar situation. If you're a company that is already relying on online traffic, I think you'd be crazy not to at least have started thinking about how you're going to use and build on the VR platform. It's now mobile, so how many people now have these? It's what, thousands and thousands and thousands, and it's growing and growing and growing. The technology is improving more and more and more. I think if you're a company that can do something with the platform, I think you should be. Absolutely.
Agreed. Absolutely agree. So guys, I'm going to open up those seats so that anyone can pop in, ask Kym any questions, share your perspective, say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, how could this possibly help me in my business with my skill set? How could this emerging technology matter to me, and how could I make this meaningful? Feel free to pop in. We're going to keep going, but that is open, so feel free to come in, guys, and don't be intimidated, because we really want to, we're all learning. I am not an expert. I am an enthusiastic student of this, and this is very, very new technology, and we're all learning together. So don't feel intimidated by a topic that you're curious about. So going back to retail and e-commerce and shopping and businesses, solutions. So speaking of marketing,
Yep.
all brands are trying to tell stories, right? Mm-hmm. That's the big buzzword. Tell your story, tell your brand story, find your storyteller. How do you think? Have you seen any interesting use cases of how integrating virtual reality into marketing campaigns can help brands differentiate themselves? We touched upon Christmas a bit ago, mm-hmm. and as an kind of an interesting example, and a somewhat unexpected example, because this company is over 100 years old, but JCPenney.
Yeah,
JCPenney has recently rolled out an in-store virtual experience where you can travel to the North Pole and check out Santa's workshop.
Yeah.
Again, JCPenney.
I think now is the time for branding experiences, because we're still trying to figure out how to develop the customer engagement piece, provides additional services, all that sort of stuff for VR content. So content at the moment, you can create really cool, exciting things. And that's, when you talk branding, that's the opportunity. JCPenney, round of applause, because that was a very, very clever idea. Build on the Christmas spirit. It's something where you want to further your branding communication. So for every brand these days, if you're a smart brand, you don't only want to be present in a bricks and mortar space, you want something that's going to continue the journey for that customer, so that when they leave that bricks and mortar space, they have maybe something on their mobile device. And then further still, when they're getting into their virtual reality space, something is continually going on. So when we've further developed things like these sporting events, for example, and people sitting in sporting events, that's where, again, more branding, more opportunities. And we should be able to tag exactly like we do with any kind of advertising through Google, YouTube, all of those sorts of things. if they've visited a website, there is a simple way to absolutely hammer that consumer with pop-up ads, and I'm sure they're going to develop a way to do it in virtual reality.
I hate pop-up.
Let's hope they find a way to do it nicely.
Can we please see banner ads in virtual reality? That would be so awful.
Let's just make a rule now. Let's just ban banner ads for virtual reality. Not allowed.
I'm on board. Signed.
Yeah.
We're going to sign. Nancy has a great question here. She says, what about museums and galleries? Have you seen any that have jumped online virtually thus far? And she gives the example of virtual museum shops. And I've seen interesting use cases of reconstructing historical events even. And someone created a great piece of content about the first flight and the story of the Wright brothers. And it was incredibly detailed, and a lot of research went into it. So I've heard some interesting ones, but yeah, museums are using this to help people visualize what it looked like back then, or wherever, whatever exhibit you're looking at. I've seen a couple of virtual art galleries. There's one here in Los Angeles that's a real brick and mortar art gallery, and they have content, and you can access that art gallery in the virtual world as well. What about you, Kym? Have you seen any fun ones?
I have. I saw one that was done for Le Louvre in Paris, and it was the Mona Lisa exhibit, and it was insanely good. It was beautifully done, like the way they'd even done the marble tile on the floor. Like it was just stunning. They even had the sound, like that light kind of piano sort of sound you hear in a gallery. Like you really got that kind of gallery presence. So yeah, there's some cool stuff. And Smithsonian, they're currently basically 3D capturing their whole catalog. I saw a tweet recently that they've done like half the birds that they've got in the Smithsonian. They've actually now captured in 3D. So what we're going to be able to see and actually muck around with, really, because you'll be able to like manipulate, move them around, turn them, whatever. It's going to be incredible. I think it's a great question. Museums have a lot to gain by this, and we, as the people that want to learn all about this cool stuff and the history, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
What about some market predictions, Kym? Everyone has their own numbers they're throwing out there, and depending on which marketing analyst you're looking at, depending on which number comes up when you Google it, you see valuations anywhere from $5 billion for virtual reality and augmented reality by 2020. I've seen $7 billion. I've seen $20 billion. What do you think? Where do you think we're going to be for the next 3 years in VR and AR development in terms of like entire market valuation? And then where do you see like the number of headsets going to?
That's very much a how long is a piece of string kind of question. And that's why I think there's so many people sort of throwing out figures at the moment. I think a good starting point is just to look at what the deal with Oculus was. I mean, we had Facebook acquire Oculus for a $2 billion deal already. And that was like, when was that now? That was like a year and a half, 2 years ago. So we're already at a point where people are investing that much into it. So in 5 years' time, I think we'll be past 5 billion, to be quite honest. I think it's going to be, excessively huge. I couldn't put a figure on it, to be honest.
Yeah. I like that. I'm going to steal that.
Go for it. It's yours. All yours.
What about headsets? The Samsung Gear VR recently launched, and they sold 1 million headsets in about 48 hours, I think it was. Sold out in the US, sold out in Germany, sold out in the UK.
Yep. And awesome to see too. Like as VR enthusiasts, we love seeing more people get on board. What I think is going to really drive that is going to be the communication that it allows. So I know that when I first got the Gear VR and first tried a lot of the applications they had available for it. I thought, this is fantastic, really, really great. Was it something that I would use all the time? I was thinking, oh, I don't know if there's many of these apps that I'd really continually go back to. But then Oculus Social got released, and I was like, well, okay, there it goes. That's it. The world is going to be changed forever. So
it's going to be excessively huge.
Excessively huge. Yes.
Hashtag excessively huge. What about, okay, so in 2016 is when we're going to see the first PC powered headsets come onto the market, and then the big three are kind of coming out in the first half of 2016. Yep. So out of Sony PlayStation VR, out of Oculus Rift, out of the HTC Vive, those are kind of the big three of the PC powered headsets.
Yep.
Where do you think it's going to go? Which one out of those big three do you see being the winner? Why? You know, I kind of want to get your insight as to how you see the big three battle going.
I think for the diehard gamers, and I mean the PC gamers when I'm talking diehard gamers, I think they're going to be hard pressed to not get an Oculus Rift, because they've been following it since it began. So I'd be surprised to see them choose anything different. In saying that, for the mass markets, I think you're going to see the PlayStation VR go crazy. It's something that connects to a platform they've already got. They don't need to buy any additional hardware. As long as you've got that PS4, effectively you're good to go. And that's a huge benefit to PlayStation. So I think that will be the mass market product. I think Oculus is going to be a mass market product for the hardcore gamers, but I think Oculus, I'm not even sure if they realize how much potential that has for business. I think Oculus is going to be the big business product. HTC will also be another big business product, and that's due to HTC's ability to really move around the space. So I think, HTC, because they've got something a bit more unique, it won't go as far as what Oculus and PlayStation go. But I think what HTC have is niche, and I don't think there's much that can compete with it, to be quite honest.
Speaking of the HTC and room scale, and so to kind of catch everyone up, it's when you have two, not controllers, but they're basically cameras that are set on either side of the room so that they can provide data input for where you are positioned. So that enables the system to have more data input about location tracking. And so when we're talking about room scale experiences, we're talking about a 1-to-1 ratio of locomotion, meaning if I walk 1 feet in the virtual world, I'm actually walking 1 actual foot in the real world. So then extrapolating from that, if my character is running a mile in a virtual game, then I'm running a real mile in real life. So do you see room scale sticking around, or is that going to stay niche, do you think? Because I've heard that Oculus tried room scale and then kind of let it lie.
I think actually Palmer Luckey just did a test recently on room scale, which actually worked fine. They're not pushing it, but I think they're just experimenting with it. I think what they're thinking is, look, how many people in reality are going to set up a room dedicated to virtual reality, because that's effectively what you need for the HTC. You need a blank, empty space, because if you don't have a blank, empty space, be prepared to knock some stuff over.
So we're going to wrap it up. To kind of finalize this, if someone is looking to start perhaps developing content, or if someone is looking to bring this technology to their business, where would you suggest someone start?
I think I would, if you're within a business looking to start, really, I would advise jumping onto your forums. Jump onto the forums, start discussing what it is that you're hoping to be able to achieve, and make as many contacts as you can. LinkedIn obviously has a number of groups available now focused on AR or VR or whatever it might be. Get involved in them, start talking to people, start figuring out who's in your area. It's a really good way to start just connecting and discussing the potential for the technology. That's certainly what I did. And it's been great. I've met some fascinating and fantastic people with amazing talent. So it's just a matter of sort of putting yourself out there. It's a strange thing to want to put yourself out there for virtual reality connections, but believe me, there are plenty of people that want to connect. And I personally, I'm always looking for more people to connect with. In Australia, it's not as big as it is over in America. So, for any Australians out there or people who know Australians, definitely push it harder. We definitely need to raise the awareness here.
So how do we connect with you, Kym? Where should we find you? How can people find you?
Certainly on Twitter at VR Connect. And if you type in Kym Porter to Google, now there's 2 Kym Porters in this world that are pretty dominant on Google. I'm the one with shorter hair and the man. So
well said.
Yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find. Just look for the guy with the VR headset on, pretty much. And certainly
you have a phenomenal profile picture.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Worked on that one, for a long time.
Great, and that's actually how you and I connected originally. Was through LinkedIn. So, and he's at VR Connect on Twitter, guys. So, Kym, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for being here and letting us pick your brain.
Oh, it was such a pleasure. No problem. Anytime.